Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Yesshift. This is another installment of Steven's Venue Adventures. I'm Steven. Um, yeah, part of a father-son team between my dad Dan and myself. So this past Sunday, November 10th, I attended another concert. This time it was Beat, and this was on, or at rather, the United Theater on Broadway here in Los Angeles. And this is a band that I almost thought I was gonna miss on their tour. I saw that they had like a Los Angeles date or two in September, and it was sold out at the time. So I was trying to figure out if there would still be options. But then, I guess due to high demand, they extended their tour, and so they added show dates. And this November 10th date on or at United Theater was one of the added shows. And of course, Beat, I mean, a lot of our audience is prog rock fans, so I'm sure lots of you already know who they are. It's Adrian Belew and Tony Levin, formerly of King Crimson, and they also got Steve Vai on guitar and Danny Carey on drums. And Danny Carey, involved in Tool, and I think he's filling in for an upcoming Primus thing. That was a whole thing in the news recently. Yeah, it's been kind of this past week has been a whirlwind for various reasons. And I mean, on the Trevor Horn concert episode yesterday, you could probably pick up as much of that. But yeah, just getting back into the groove of this whole thing. And we've had a lot of interviews and stuff scheduled for, Drum Talk TV, as well as a couple Yesshift things this month. I believe Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific is we have Dave Kersner talking about It, which is his Genesis Lamb Lies Down on Broadway tribute. So hey, Broadway will tie in there. Yeah, I'll have to double check that that's still in place. But yeah, we got stuff going on. So Beat, their whole thing is they play 80s King Crimson music. So, staying within that time frame, the albums of that decade were Discipline, Beat, and Three of a Perfect Pair. And I'll give you a heads up when I'm about to say what the set list was, in case there's anyone who wants to avoid that sort of thing. But to give a little context for my King Crimson fandom, so lots of you know I primarily listened to Yes from a very young age. I turned 30 recently, so I guess yeah, I've been a Yes fan for like 30 years. And for the longest time, I thought that that was the only band I needed. And then in 2007, so I would have been 13 or 12 at the time, not yet turned 13, 13 later that year. Um, Dad gave me this DVD of Asia live in Tokyo 2007. And so that was sort of my gateway into these other bands. So it was pretty easy to get into because, okay, Steve Howe's part of this. Oh, and Jeff Downs, he was on drama. But then I got really into these other guys as well. John Wetton's incredible voice and his playing, and Carl Palmer on the drums. So about a year and a half later, like late 2008, around the time I was 14, almost 14 or something, I decided to get into these other prog rock bands. And with Asia being the gateway, I figured, okay, I'll include King Crimson and Emerson, Lake and Palmer as the a couple of these other bands I want to start getting into in prog rock. And I'm pretty sure I started with King Crimson before starting Emerson Lake and Palmer's discography. And uh, it just that first album, I talked about it recently, I think. It's just so memorable. And Greg Lake's voice, and this concert actually took place on what would have been Greg Lake's birthday, I believe. I Let me just double check that. Yeah, it was. So for a little bit of the concert, I was sort of thinking of Greg Lake's legacy with the band and John Wetton as well. So yeah, I got into King Crimson. I went through the 70s and 80s stuff, and Dad is really into. He likes watching footage from the 80s touring. I think he might have even seen one of those shows, and just loving how weird it gets in that era. And I remember him telling me at some point that uh, they didn't play 70s era stuff during the 80s, and that's very different from what some of these other prog rock bands were doing. Like they would try to weave in some stuff from their classic legacy, like Yes had 90125, but they'd also throw in some How era stuff. um I think, did Genesis throw in a couple things here and there? I feel like they may have, like, not too, like, out there for commercial audiences type thing. But Rush definitely wove in at least a few things here and there. I'm sure you could make like comparisons and contrast all these different things. But yeah, that was a huge, bold move. And I mean, going to this concert and hearing Adrian's voice, like it was, it didn't really occur to me. I didn't really think much about this in the past, but how his voice is pretty different from Wetton and Lake. Like to me, Wetton and Lake's voices definitely have their differences. They're not exactly the same, but they still feel like they're sort of in the same area, whereas Adrian is a different type of voice. So I do kind of wonder if maybe that decision in the 80s to not touch the 70s stuff could have been partially that they wanted to have that be the Wetton and Lake stuff, and weren't sure if they could replicate it exactly, and so wanted to just make sure that the 80s stuff is represented properly. And I mean, it really is a bold move, and I think it worked though. And this concert, I think, did a great job bringing that music from the 80s back in the live setting, bringing it forward. Danny was a huge powerhouse on the drums. There were moments where you felt that Bruford vibe, but he's also very much his own person, and just how there's a lot of power in that drumming. And Steve Vai, is a great choice for this thing as well. Tony Levin, Tony Levin looks the same in a lot of some of these videos that I've seen with like Peter Gabriel and some other things. So it was cool finally being able to see him in concert. He's one of those people who's been on my radar for a while. And sorry, I'm just typing this real quick. And yeah, so this was a really good concert, and it came at the end of a really busy, fun day. Oh, I should also mention this concert is available on Veeps. It got live streamed on there, and I think it's still available up until the 17th. A week after, up until a week after the concert happened. And so I'm kind of in this strange position where, going into this concert, I was like, wow, it's really cool that they're filming a concert that I get to attend. But there's also a part of me that's like, man, I kind of wish that this experience could have been unique to like me and the people who attended, this particular show. And now after the fact, I wondered to myself, should I watch the broadcast that ended up on Veep, the professionally shot stuff. I did not see the cameras when I was there, but I had a balcony seat, so I assume they may have been on the lower level below us. Um, so yeah, now I'm in this position where I'm like, I have this memory of the concert, my personal experience, my vantage point. Uh, but do I want to go ahead and watch the footage as well, or could that potentially override my memory of it? I've never been in this position before where I go to a concert that got professionally filmed, and it's different from if someone were to do like an audience shot thing. But yeah, I don't know. Should I go ahead and watch that footage? Let me know if you've seen it. Drop a comment. And yeah, so I did consider maybe watching it before doing this review, but I didn't want to leave all of you hanging for too long. So yeah, I guess that's something I'll be deciding this week, whether I go ahead and experience a concert again, but from different point of view. It might be worth doing, but um, yeah. So I don't know. Let me know what you think about that whole subject. But yeah, this came at the end of a day where I had my birthday celebration. I had some friends over because Sunday was when everyone would be more available. We watched movies, played some games, had some food, and some great conversations. Um, and so going to this concert, it was like, man, I kind of wish that all of these fun things were on different days so that I would feel like I'm more present in the concert. Because when I was watching the concert for my balcony seat, I was really into the experience, but not quite as immersed as I would usually be. Because I kept thinking about, I was running through the day in my head and some other things, but I could tell that the music is being played exceptionally well. So yeah, that's another interesting thing about concert experiences is that the things that you do throughout the day could affect how much you enjoy the concert. I remember when I went to a Yes concert a couple of years ago, I had a lot of traveling going on that day beforehand that got really frustrating. And I think I also had a drink during the concert, and I could tell that they were playing really well, but I felt like I wasn't as present, as immersed as I would normally be, even though it was a really good concert. But yeah, like I could tell, just by looking at how they were playing the instruments, how lively and energetic they were, and how the music sounded. Like this was a really well put together show, and these guys, they really have it. So I don't know. Is this tour still going on? Let me check how many more dates of this there are. Because I'm sure some of you have already seen it, but just in case. Okay, yeah, it looks like there are more dates going into mid December. I see some East Coast dates. They're still on the West Coast. The next one they're doing is in Thousand Oaks on the 18th, then Reno and some Oregon. Oh, there's a Vancouver date. Okay. So, yeah, go to beat-tour.com if you're around the US and see if they're coming near you because it really is worth seeing. But I think that another takeaway from this concert is, something that I never really qu- questioned or asked myself about. The question of which era of King Crimson do you prefer? Because I definitely have my preferred eras of a couple other bands. But with King Crimson, I realized I never really asked myself that same question. And so, having seen this material live and having seen, like the recent prog stock stream of David Cross's band playing some of the 70s King Crimson stuff, I think I'm definitely more of a 70s King Crimson aficionado. Like, I enjoy the multiple eras for sure, and there's a lot of exceptional skills and playing in these 80s compositions. But I think I'm more of a 70s guy when it comes to the King Crimson stuff. So this kind of solidified that a little bit, I think. But overall, really good show. So I'll go ahead and, well, I'll show you the pictures I took, and then I'll run through the set list. And these pictures, they're not that great. I don't know. Maybe if you watch the stream that's on Veeps, you'll see some better visual representation of this whole thing. Um, but yeah, I took these pictures like not during the show because they didn't want anyone taking pictures during the show. Um, so it's mainly of the venue. Okay, so it's this window. All right, so we got the outside view right there. United Theater on Broadway. Um, and you got the inside. Yeah, these pictures aren't great. Like the lighting is really it makes it look like it's glowing more than it actually was. But yeah, this kind of reminded me of I'm pretty sure it was where was that? Where I saw Kansas. I think that was the Orpheum Theater or something. Um, it's a similar type of venue with that architecture, and yeah, you have this elephant symbol, elephant talk. But it also kind of reminded me of something that I saw the stuff that Dad and I saw at the Freya Dean and Roger Dean exhibit a while back. Um, but yeah, there were a few songs that I recognized because, like I said, I went through the King Crimson catalog, um, 08, 09, and listened to some of that 80s stuff again once in a while, but didn't have the track titles as memorized as I do with other bands. But there were a few that I recognized during the concert. And before I read off the set list, I just want to say there is a nice surprise in the encore. So I'll just leave it at that. If you don't want the set list spoiled, you can go ahead and leave this video, save it for later. And yeah, so I'll go ahead and say what the set list was. So I kind of had to go to setlist FM. So if there are any inaccuracies, blame them, not me. Oh, and there was someone sitting next to me who seemed to be jotting down notes on her phone. Like, I think maybe was jotting the set list and some thoughts and was like moving around to the songs. And so she seemed like very into the music. Yeah, I think she might have been around my age, maybe younger. I'm not really sure. The seats, I will say, the rows felt a little cramped. Like there wasn't. I kind of wish there was a little bit more space between the row I was singing and the row in front of me. But yeah, other than that, like the show's really great. So I'll go ahead and read off the set list. Um, so so before, in the middle, and after the show, there was this track that would be played. Just for people to hear during the break. Apparently, this was a Full Heart, and it's a Robert Fripp song. So yeah, I was kind of wondering what that was. But for set one, we had Neurotica, Neil and Jack and Me. I definitely recognized that one, as well as the next one, Heartbeat. Then Sartori and Tangier, Model Man, Dig Me, Man with an Open Heart, Industry, and Lark's Tongues and Aspic Part 3. And then we got the intermission, and then after the intermission, we got Waiting Man, The Sheltering Sky, Sleepless, Frame by Frame, Matt Kudasai. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Elephant Talk, I definitely recognize that. And Three of a Perfect Pair. In Discipline, finished the second set, and then they did the thing where they walked off stage and then walked back right away to do the encore. I should say that after the first two songs, um, I think Adrian was like, we start off with a couple easy songs, so we'll just go with a little bit of a slower one." So I thought that was a funny little thing. But for the encore, this was a surprise to me because, going into this, I expected just 80s King Crimson music, but, they did a tip of the hat, said they want to honor the other members of the 80s lineup, like Bill Bruford and, um, oh gosh, I'm like blanking on the names now. Um, oh, yeah, Robert Fripp, obviously. So their nod to them was doing a 70s King Crimson song, which was Red. And then after that, they played Thela Hun Ginjit. But yeah, during Red, the lights turned red, and as one would expect, I mean, it's King Crimson, so of course. But yeah, like everyone seemed really satisfied. That felt like the overall vibe as I was leaving the thing. I see Bella Lugrisi chimed in saying, "Hi, Steven and friends." Okay, yeah, nice to see you there on watching on YouTube. But yeah, and I remember someone was telling someone else that they came with, like which of the members was from King Crimson, and walking out there was discussion. Like a couple people were like, one of them was asking the other, which song was this, which song was that. So it's really nice seeing those discussions in person. They did have a merch stand. I think there was a limited vinyl of one of Steve Vai's records, if I remember correctly, like a pink vinyl. But I feel like I was, you know, I I don't know. Like with some of these shows, it's kind of a case by case thing whether I want to get something from the merch stand and taking other things into account as well. So I did not get the merch, but there are definitely long lines for the merch from what I remember. Um, and Bella Lugrisi says saw the Beacon Theater show and everyone was great. Tony stole the show for me. Okay, yeah, yeah, that's really cool. Um, yeah, so really glad they were able to put this together. If I remember correctly, I think at some point during the show, they said that this was 5 years in the making. So I kind of vaguely remember maybe this was something they wanted to do, and then 2020 happened. Maybe I could be wrong, but people can like look up all that info, I guess. But yeah, they really did the 80s material justice, in my opinion. And yeah, this is, I'm really glad I was able to make it to the show. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff going on with me that day, lots of fun stuff. So part of me does wish that I could have seen it on a different day and given it more of my presence and attention. But I still really enjoyed it. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe should I watch the Veeps thing? Like maybe that would feel like a different experience. I don't know. Let me know what you think. Should I watch the concert the way that it was live streamed, or should I just stay with this memory that I have? But yeah, definitely go and see Beat if you ever get the chance. And yeah, I think that's it for me on this episode of Steven's venue adventures here on Yesshift. So until next time, you can follow us at Yesshift on Facebook and YouTube. Write to yesshiftpodcast@gmail.com. Search Yesshift in a podcasting app and you'll probably find us, hopefully. And yeah, thanks for tuning in and see you all soon.